In the last session, we have seen about what is HTTP protocol, what is HTTP request, HTTP response messages, how the message is divided, what is a request line, what is a status line, what is the header, what is the body. This type of information we have seen in the last session. Now we'll try to understand how to make a request using HTTP protocol, using HTTP protocol in Salesforce. In terms of Salesforce, how these HTTP requests are made and how the responses are captured. Now listen to the format. In the Salesforce, we have three predefined Apex classes. In the Salesforce, we have three predefined Apex classes which are given to support your operations of HTTP requests and responses. Now look at the format. What are the three classes we have in the Salesforce? One is HTTP request class, other one is HTTP response class, and HTTP class. Now let us understand the first one. What is this HTTP class? What does this contain? This HTTP class contains two methods. The first method is send. It is going to send a request and we are going to get a response. If we give a request object, it is going to give you a response object. So first method is send. If you give a request object to the send method, it is going to give you HTTP response object. Then toString. So what is this toStrings? Object properties. So whatever the object you have created, HTTP object you have created, that object properties will be given to you. Now what type of object properties you are going to get? String format. We are going to get the properties of this object in the form of string. So basically, what is the purpose of HTTP request? What is the purpose of HTTP class? This class is defined under the namespace of system. HTTP class defined under the namespace of system. This class contains two methods. One is send, other one is toString. Send. This will send the HTTP request object and receive HTTP response object. toString. Whatever the object you have given, that object properties are given in the form of string. These are the two methods what we have. Okay. The second one. What is the second class we have? HTTP request. Now, if you want to send a request, when you want to send a request, first all the parameters which you want to send in the request, like to which server you want to send a request, what is the format of the method, whether it's a get method, post method, put method, trace, update, delete, what is the type of operation, what is the type of authentication, and are you passing any body, are you passing anything in the header? All these things are kept in the HTTP request. This class is used to create HTTP request message. Now what are the methods we have? This class have so many methods here. Like we have, first let us look at the set body as a blob binary document you are sending, set body document, then set client certificate name, compressed, in case if you are sending larger amount of data, compress it and send it, set endpoint, set header, set method, set timeout, toString. So all these are setter method. For every set we have the corresponding get body. In the request, what you are sending, get the endpoint. In the request, what you are putting in the body, get body. In the request, if you are sending any binary format, get document body as blob, get body document, get, compressed. So all these methods are used for what? Retrieving the data what you set for request object. Now setting the parameter for the request object, getting the data of the request object. Basically, what is this HTTP request? It is a class defined under the namespace of system. This is used to create HTTP request. Now if you want to send any HTTP request, the request object should be created. So whatever the HTTP request we are supposed to create, that is created with the help of HTTP request class. Right, we'll discuss the methods one by one. First, let us understand the core concepts. Then we have response. Now this will give you response message. This class is defined under the namespace of system. This class is defined under the namespace of system. Now when you made a request, we are going to get a response. When you are getting a response, then you are supposed to understand, when you are getting a response, what is the body of the response? If the body is in the binary format, body is a document format, header, get the header information, get the status, so all the corresponding parameters. So if you want to create any request message, if you want to receive any response, we require HTTP request class and HTTP response class. These are used to create the corresponding request and response. Now let us understand one by one. So in Salesforce provided three predefined classes to support request. All the Apex classes that support HTTP request and response are defined under the namespace of there are three predefined classes. What are the predefined classes we have? HTTP, HTTP request, HTTP response. HTTP. It is a predefined Apex class. Support this is defined under the namespace of boss. Same notes I gave in the hard copy. I am also typing. What else you are writing? Spend your time in listening to the conversation. Nobody is going to publish your books. Already gave hard copy. I am also typing on the note. We are giving a video access also. Then what else you are putting on your book? Listen to the conversation. Now, this class has 3 methods. This class has 2 methods. What are the 2 methods we have? Send to. So what was this send method? What is the send method? This method will take a request object. This method will take HTTP request object as input parameter and gives HTTP response as output parameter. It is going to take HTTP request as input parameter and going to give you HTTP response as output parameter. So what is the syntax? Response send. So if we give HTTP request as input parameter, it is going to return you HTTP response. Then next method what we had, toString. This method will display properties of the object. In the form of string. This is available for all the 3. So, string. This is how we have given HTTP request. So this class basically has send method which will send a request and receive the response. Right. So what is the next one we had? HTTP what is this HTTP request? This is a predefined Apex class. Apex class. Predefined Apex class. It is defined under namespace of system. This class is used to create HTTP request object. Now, if you want to send a HTTP request, what are the parameters we require? This class has some predefined methods. Set or retrieve data of request message. Now, first let us see. If I want to send a request, first I have to tell to which server I was making a request. If I want to make a request to a server, now if I want to retrieve a data, first you are supposed to tell to which server are you making the request. Are you making a request to Gmail? Are you requesting a Amazon? Are you requesting the Heroku? Are you requesting to X, Y, Z? To which server you are making a request. So how do you know that? Set endpoint. Set endpoint. Basically it is a string. Set endpoint. What is the set endpoint? This is going to specify to which server you are making a request. The first method set endpoint. set endpoint. Specifies the endpoint for this request. This is nothing but endpoint for the request is nothing but to which server you are making a request, or to which application you are making a request, to which server you are making a request, or to which application you are making a request. Set endpoint. Set endpoint. So this method specifies to which server or application we are making a request. Making a request. Right. This will take the URL of the service provider or resource as input parameter. Syntax. Now, to whichever the resource you are making a request, or to whichever the server you are making a request, that resource URL or that server URL will be given as a endpoint. The next one, get endpoint. Whatever the endpoint you have set, if you want to retrieve that, we'll say get endpoint. This will return the endpoint of the HTTP request. For every set, we have a corresponding get. This is going to be public string get. Whatever the endpoint we have set, we want to get it. This will be used in testing. Now I am making a request to a particular server. When I am making a request, I want to write a test class. In the test class, I want to know whether the request is going to the particular server or not. Whether the request is going to the particular server or not. How do I know? Then I'll say set the endpoint, get the endpoint and display, so that we know to which URL we are making a request. Am I giving a proper URL or not? Because sometimes we give dynamic URLs. When you are giving a dynamic URL, we want to know whether it is set properly or not. Then I'll do what? When I'm creating a request, I'll also say get request and display it. Then I know to which server it is making a request or to which URL it is making a request. Right, boss? Then we have seen this. What is the next one we had? After knowing the endpoint, then set method. Set method. Now, what type of request is this? What type of request is this? You are sending a request, very good. But what type of request is this? What type of request is this? Is it a delete, get, head, post, put, trace? Now, look at the format. Now, what type of request is this and why we are going to use it? First one. Look at the format. Now, basic idea. Get. Boss, if you are trying to get, if you are trying to send a request to the server, I am a service provider, you are a consumer. Now, you are making a request to me to give some data. Now, where is the data? Data is in the service provider. Data is with me. You are requesting for the data. You are not inserting any data. You are not modifying any data. The data which I already have, that is requested by you. Now you are requesting the data. You are requesting the data which is available on the server. Then we go for what? Get. Then we go for what? Get. Now it is a get method, means the client is not sending any data for insertion. Client is not making any modification on the database. Client is requesting the data which is already on the server. Then we are going for get. Get means retrieving the data from server. retrieving the data from server. Are you clear? Okay. When you are making a get request, look at the point. If you are making a get request, generally what is the request message format? What is the format of request message? Header, blank line, body. And first one is request line. Request line. This is the format. But when I say get method, we will have only header. No body will be there. When you say get, whenever I say method, I say get, we have only request line and request message header. There will be no body part for the get. Why? Because I am not inserting any data. I am only requesting the data from you. So whenever I say it is a get method, it will have only header. It will not have any body. And what is the purpose of get? Get method is used to retrieve the data from the server. Get method is used to retrieve the data from the server. Get method is used to retrieve the data from the server. Are you clear? And it has only header part, no body part is available. I hope you are good with this. Clear about this one? Okay. Let us go to the next one. What is the next one we had? Okay. Post. Next one is post. What is this post method? Why we are taking post means, boss, you are requesting, you are trying to insert a new data into the server. Now, if you are trying to insert a new data into the server, it is a post. We are trying to insert a new data into the server. You are trying to insert a new data into the server. It is what? We call it as post. Now, what is this post? You are trying to send the data to the server. Client is trying to send the data to the server. Post. Whenever we say post, we are going to send the data. Where is the data kept? It is kept in the body part. If it is a post method, we will have header and body. Now, when you go for a post, if you are trying to manipulate the data on the server, you are trying to insert a new data on the server, generally we go for what? Post. Right. The post request will have header as well as body. Get will not have body. As the get doesn't have body, any data you want to send it to the server, that we give it in the URL. Get method will not have any body. If you want to send any data, the data is kept in the URL. Example, every page request you are making in the Salesforce is a get method. If you want to open a Visual Force page with a particular record, what will you do? Salesforce.com/apex/Visual Force page, ID equal to ID of the page. What was that? It is a HTTP get request. If you want to open a particular record, Salesforce.com/ID of the record, it is HTTP get record. Every Visual Force page you are requesting from the server is a get. Every Visual Force page where you are passing the parameters in the URL, it is also a get method. Are you getting? Why are you passing the parameters in the URL? As there is no body for the HTTP request. Any data you want to pass, it has to be passed in the head, in the URL only. When you take a post method, it has a body. So whatever the data we want to insert, that we are going to insert in the HTTP body, HTTP request body, and send it. I hope you are good with this one, right? Okay. So request, we have get method and post method. Then what is the next method we have? Put. Put is what? trying to replace the data which is on the server. You are trying to update or replace the data on the server. When the resource is on the server, the data which is on the server, you are trying to update or replace. So we are going for put. Put is the method. If you want to delete the data from the server, then we are going to have delete operation. Now I don't want response body. Now let us see. You are making a request to me. In the server there are 4 files. You want to retrieve these files. When you want to retrieve this file, before you retrieve, you want to know the size of the file. First you want to make a request to me, find out what is the size of all the files. Based on the size, you will decide single request or multiple requests. Now first, how do you get the size of the file? You are not requesting the data. You are only looking for the size. Now you want only the properties. After looking at the properties, you will decide to make a request or not. Now you don't want the response body. You want only properties of the response. Then I will go for what? Head. When I say head, it only give response head without body. When you make a request to the server, from the server only response body, okay, response header will come, body will not come. Okay. Then we have last trace. Slide. Now you are just making a test request. You are making a test request, tracing whether the connection is working or not. Just want to trace whether the connection is working or not. So just a test loop. Okay. Then we had one more option. What is that? Options. What is that options? What is option? It defines. Now I gave a URL. When I give a URL, on this URL, what methods are supported? Is the get is supported? Is the post is supported? Is the delete is supported? What are the list of methods that are supported on this URL? If you want to find out, we will use options. Now tell me what are the things we have now. First, get, post, put, delete, trace. Then we have option. So get, post, put, delete, trace. Then we have option. These are the methods we have. So out of these, what type of request you are making now? We had a group of things. Out of these, what type of request you are making now? That is given by set method. Set method will give you type of request you are making. Making. Right. Just instead of typing it, I just copy pasting the data. It's already there in your documentation. So now what is the format here? So get, post, then we have put, then we have delete. We don't have a patch, we have a trace actually. Delete. I hope you are clear with this methods here. Okay. This only specifies what type of operation we are performing. So should I type this or everyone has followed?
Satish,
Yeah.
in our current integration, currently I'm doing integration from SAP to Salesforce using SAP PI tool.
Could you ask your
I'm
questions?
using patch method.
Could you ask
Patch method.
Could you ask your questions at the end? Right. I'll answer your queries at the end. Right.
Okay.
Now,
Thank you.
look at the format. This method. Now, so this method will specify. Everyone ask your queries at the end. By the time we complete the discussion, 80% of your queries will be clarified. Right. So if you break the topics, it will not be. Once I complete all the topics, 80% of your queries will be automatically clarified. So do not interrupt in between. Let the topic be completed. By the end of the topic, most of your queries will be clarified. Okay. And then we'll spend the time for questionnaire. So this method will specify what type of request we are, whatever request we are making to the server. Right. Listen to the point. Salesforce will support only get, post, put, delete, head, trace. There are other formats of methods also, no problem. But Salesforce is only supporting what? There may be other formats of message also. But Salesforce is supporting what? Get, post, put, delete, head, trace. Different technology may support different format. But now we are making a web service from Salesforce. What Salesforce support is a question mark. There are different options are there. These are only not the option. There are many more options are there. But in the Salesforce, only these are supported. So whoever is providing the service or whenever you are making a request from the Salesforce, only these services I have to use. The other technology may have other services, but when I don't support, what is the use for me? Now, when you're writing a program in the Salesforce, you are supposed to look at what Salesforce supports. What my point? Now I told there's an options. Optional not work. Somebody asked me just now. They say patch. It is not going to support in the Salesforce. Right? What is supported in the Salesforce is only get, post, put, delete, head, trace. For practically speaking, every request we make will go with get and post only. The rest of the things only for the sake of your entry will be using it. Practically, it is only get and post, because everything can be achieved with get and post. Everything can be achieved with the get and post. Majority, every service majority, we are going to implement with the get and post. Now put is there. Now whatever the work we are doing with the put can be done with the post. Whatever we are doing with the put, we can do it with the post. Whatever we are doing with the delete, that I can do with the get. Whatever we are doing with the head, I can do it with the get or post. Are you getting my point? Right? So as get and post will almost support every operation. Generally, 99% will go with what? Get and post. Unless you are very maintaining 100% of programmatical rules, obeying 100% of programmatical rules. You want to be more generic programming, then I'll use put and delete and all this. Otherwise, the people generally go with get and post. Any other thing will be supported by this. Okay. Other than a trace options. Right. Now, I hope your query is answered. Someone from online. Right. Is your query is answered? Online? SAP system.
No, sir. Put means it will replace the record, right? Completely.
It may update. See, when I am modifying the data, it is also called update. When I say replace, what are you replacing? What are you replacing? Are you replacing a field? Are you replacing a record?
No,
Are you replacing a
we
document?
we have a account record. That account record, I want to change the phone number only. We have 4 columns. In 4 columns, I want to change only 1 column. Is it fulfill the put method?
Again, I repeat. When you say you are updating it, you may update a single field, 10 fields, 1 lakh fields. It is, for me, it is an update only. Now you need not specify it's like 1 field I'm updating or 4 field I'm updating. If you're trying to modify the data in the server, we can use a put. Okay. But I'm saying whatever we do in the put is also achieved in the post. Whatever you do in the put is what the put is doing, replacing. Can't I send the same replaceable data in the post and do it? Yes, I can do it. Practically speaking, the people will use post. Critically speaking, it is on paper, it is a put method. Practically speaking, people will use with the post method, right? When you are replacing, when I say replace, it did not mean a complete record. It can be a field also. When I say replace, it did not be a particular record. It may be a group of records also. When I say replace, it may not be a particular, okay, it may not be a particular object. I may be replacing the data from a group of objects also, right? I may update the same field in 10 objects. Yes, it's updating the data. Now you cannot give a global definition what update is. Now anything that you are trying to manipulate on the server is an update. Any data you are trying to manipulate on the server is an update. Right? Data resource is already there. Resource is already there. You are trying to manipulate the data on the resource. That's what is called an update. Now that update may be on a single field or a record or a group of records or a group of objects, or maybe an entire database also. Right, boss? Okay.
Okay.
Now, set method. This method is specify type of request we are sending to the server. Now I told you, even though there are group of options here, maximum will be using get and post. With the post, we can do all rest of the things. So on paper, you may have a number of methods, but practically when you're writing, you'll be going for get and post. Okay. Next one, set method. Similarly, you're going for the first. What is the purpose? Get. Come back to the next one. Get method. What is the purpose of get method? This method will run the type of request so here also the syntax is void, public void, what is the syntax? String. Now, what is the URL to which you are making a request? What type of request you are making it? Then, third one, set header. Set header. When I say header, header is going to be in the form of key value pair. Header is going to be in the form of key value pair. Header is going to be in the form of key value pair. Whatever the data you want to set in the header, it is going to be in the key value pair. Set header. It is going to be in the form of key value pair. Whatever the data we are setting. Now, what is the size of the header? 100 KB. What is the size of the header? 100 KB. 100 KB. If you are making a request to the server, and suppose I am using a get method, boss. If it is a get method, there is no body, right? Whatever the data you want to send, that has to be sent using header, okay, the URL only. Now, when you are passing the data, what is the size of the header? Any data that you are putting in the header should not exceed 100 KB. Whatever the data we are putting in the header, that should not exceed 100 KB. Now, HTTP request will have only header. It doesn't have a body. So anything that you are putting on the header should be not more than 100 KB. Should not have more than 100 KB. So let us take this one. Set header. This method is used to set. Generally, what will be the header elements? In the header, what will be there? Set encoding type. Repeat. Where property is the key. corresponding syntax. Public void set now. Example, request. Then we had request dot set header authorization. Or we are giving request dot set header accept application JSON. We are setting the properties. If you want to set the property, what is the property name? What is the property name and value? This is how we are setting the property. It is in the form of key value pair. It is in the form of key value pair. Then we had get header. Now you want to retrieve the parameters from the header. This will return the corresponding value of the header. Getter methods, we are just going to display the log file, or going to use in the test classes for testing. The get methods are only for our class unit testing, or when you are writing a test classes, we'll be using it. It is the corresponding value of a given key from then we had get header, set header. Next, set body as block, set body. Then we'll go for next one, setting the body. When you are going for a body, what is the maximum size of the body? 6 MB. If it is a asynchronous call, 12 MB. 6 MB, 6 MB and Apex or 12 MB of asynchronous Apex. Set body. If you want to pass any data, we'll use set body. What is the maximum size of the body? 6 MB. If it is asynchronous call, 12 MB. Tell me one of the example what we already done for asynchronous call. Salesforce dot connection dot query, remote actions, action function, action support, action region. All these are asynchronous calls to the server. So set header or set body. The body should be in the form of what? String. That string can be a JSON string, that string can be XML string, or you might have given straight away. Set body, the body has to be passed in the form of a string. There can be a regular text, or there can be a XML string, or there can be a JSON string. This method is used to pass the data from the client. Data should be passed in the string format only. Data should be passed in the string format only. The next we have maximum size of the data, 6 MB. LMP for asynchronous call. So web service from feature method, web service from remote action, web service from remote action, web service from Ajax call, web service from Ajax, web service from your feature method, web service from batch apex, web service from schedule apex will run like asynchronous calls. Okay. Then syntax. Board. Get board. This will return the body of the request. Request. Now we add a string get board. Then let us go to the next. In case if you want to pass any image, if you want to pass any image, or if you want to pass any document, then we go for set body as blob. Encrypted data. If you are passing the username password, you want to encrypt and send it. If you want to send any encrypted data, then you will go for a blob. If you want to send any large file, the large file binary format, like when you are attaching any file, I want to send it in the form of blob. So then we go for body using a blob. Now if you want to send a blob is what? Binary format. When you generally go for binary format, when you are encrypting the data or when you are sending a files or documents, you'll be using this. Then what is the size of the request? 6 MB and 12 MB. Set this format. What was this? If you want to send any blob as the body, we'll be using set body as blob. This method is used. Send the blob as a body. Generally, if you want to encrypt the data, and send, we will use blob. So syntax public void set body as blob. Similarly, get body as if you want to retrieve body of the header, the form of then if you want to send XML file as a body, now we have a DOM object. DOM.document. Where did we see? Right. If you want to pass a content as a DOM object, if you want to pass a DOM document object as a parameter, if you want to pass a DOM document object, it's not a string. It is not XML string. We are passing what? DOM document. Now already I have a XML file. I uploaded it. DOM document, DOM document, doc equal to new DOM document. Look at the point. Now I have now I want to pass DOC. not string. Not string. You get USD to XML string. That will become a string. If I want to pass a string, set body. But I want to pass here DOM document object. I have created a DOM document which has loaded with some XML file. Now I want to pass this object. If you want to pass DOM document object as a parameter, then we use this method called set DOM document. Right. I'll just copy paste it. Already we have. Then we have set the certificate and timeout. Similarly, we had set certificate. In case if you want to pass the certificate, we'll be using certificate. Set certificate. Set certificate. In case if you want to pass any certificate as a authentication value, I am making a request to you to authenticate myself. I may also send a certificate. So if you want to send a certificate as an authentication process, then we use it. While making a HTTP request, pass the certificate as authentication. Then we use this method. Now, passing the certificate name, there is a old pattern. Nowadays, only passing the certificate name. Previously, we used to pass certificate and password, but there is outdated pattern. Now, in the recent pattern, we are only passing the certificate names. If you pass the certificate name, the framework automatically load the certificate. Previously, we used to load the certificate and pass the certificate. Okay, password. There is a old pattern. In the current pattern of framework, if you pass the certificate name, automatically the framework will upload the certificate to the request. Okay, so we have set certificate name. Previously, we are using the certificate. Now we are only using certificate name. Previously, certificate name, certificate, password. 3 we used to pass. Certificate name, certificate, password. All the 3 we used to pass in the Salesforce. Now, in the recent format, we are only passing certificate name. Automatically, certificate password and certificate is uploaded by the framework in the request. Right, boss? Then set certificate. Similarly, we can use get certificate name and get. Okay. Then we have main point. Set compressed, okay. Set timeout. What is the maximum time that we can wait? 2 minutes. Maximum wait time is 2 minutes. Within 2 minutes, the response is not coming. Automatically, connection will be discarded. So, what is the time I can keep? I can keep any time between 1 to 1,20,000 milliseconds. Generally, it's 2 minutes. Okay, we can set the time 1 to 1,20,000 milliseconds. Generally, we say 1 to 2. Okay, we can keep the time in the form of milliseconds. There are timeout should be within the millisecond. What is this timeout? What is this timeout? Within this time, if any one communication request is not transferred in both the parties, either from the client side to server or server to client, any request is not passed within that time, then connection is discarded. Timeout. Within that time, what I am setting, one message has to be exchanged. That may be from client to server or site to server to client. Doesn't make a difference. Okay. One message need to be exchanged between both the parties within that time limit. Set timeout. This will specify the time within which the response need to be received. Now, what is the maximum time? 1,20,000 milliseconds. Set timeout. waiting time maximum waiting time for exchange of message. So 1 to set time mode. So this is how we have given. So basically, right boss, this is how we have created. So we had too much of theory. Let us do one example, then we'll come to HTTP response. Okay, let us do one example now. Now this HTTP request is for what? Creating a request message. Similarly, we'll be having what? Response. Response also will have get body as blob. They'll also have a couple of methods. So before that, let us do one example. Let us do one example. HTTP one. So let us take the format what they have given. They gave one request here. Okay. Look at the format. First example. Public. Public string. So I'm making it public void if I want to make HTTP p equal to new, then I'm making a request message. Request equal to new HTTP, creating a request object. Set the endpoint. Now, how do you set the endpoint URL? Request dot set endpoint. Whatever the endpoint we are giving here, that endpoint I'm giving here. Set the method type. So the method type is request set method. Now I'm giving there method. I'll make it as get. Method is get. Then send the request, get the response. HTTP response equal to p dot send. HTTP response equal to p dot send request. Then we have body of the response. Body of the response. Body equal to response dot get the body of the response. I am not sure what type of response we are going to get, either XML or JSON. Let us see the output, then I'll give you. This is how I created. Let me create a VF page. So, text, input text, value equal to endpoint, value equal to submit action. What is the method I gave? This is how we are getting. Then I'm giving input text area rows equal to value equal to what is the result again? Body, right? Okay. Body. Display this. Is not as I can say right. So what I'm doing, boss, roles calls value equal to body attribute and re-render. What is the bug I made? I written reverse order. It should be ID equal to 1 here, and it should be re-render 1. Okay. Now come back to the format when you're making a request. Now I'm copying the URL. Now look at this, we get one error saying that your URL is not registered. When I submit, it says unauthorized endpoint, your URL is not registered. So what should I do for this? Setup, build, setup, administer, security controllers, remote site settings. So every third-party system to which you are making a request has to be registered. Every third-party system to which you are making a request has to be registered. Every third-party system to which you are making a request has to be registered as a remote site setting. So we made a request and we received the response in the form of XML. What is the response we received? It is in the form of XML, where we have a library, book, title, and ISBN number. So we can deserialize this and get the data. When I'm making a request to this, what is the format in which we are getting a response? Our response is in the form of XML. Now we are supposed to deserialize this XML. Now what is the format? Root element, other, this is how we are getting the data. Now my requirement is making a request to that URL, getting the data, and creating them into a object called book. Internally I have a book object. When I make a request to that, whatever the data they are sending, whatever the data about the books they are sending, I want to take the data, insert the data into the object. So that is my requirement. First I made a request to the third party. When I made a request to third party, what is the format of the request we received? HTTP request equal to new HTTP request. Endpoint method is get, send the request, get the response. Send the request, get the response. In the response status, response dot get system dot debug that response dot get. You can say head. Fine, okay. Now look at this requirement. I'll enhance this requirement. The body is coming to you, which you want to deserialize. Now tell me, how do you deserialize? DOM dot load. Now we are going to get the root element. How do you get the root element? DOM dot XML node. There is a library. The library has number of chain elements. List of DOM dot XML node. Books equal to root dot chain elements. Now I have to take one by one element. Then you are supposed to take chain elements. Now here again we are going to do every chain element. Every chain element is, each one is one book. Each one is one book. So the books we are taking book. Now dot get dot get chain elements. Yeah. Get one by one chain. How do you get the chain? If label is, now we want to create. So what we are going to do, if the label is, what are the values we got? Other, title, other, title, then we have ISBN. Get the label. If label is, get the label. If label is other, then assign to book dot other. So what we need to do, get the data, display them into, insert them into object. So first we are supposed to create a custom object. So before I do that, I'll give one quick response call here. Public thing. Now what we do here? Not response, it should be result. We already used a response variable. Result equal to result plus. Then we are supposed to get c dot get This is what I give. So let me display the data here. Instead of body, I'll give result. Now once you got the result, just to show the output, boss. Come back. Now we received book, author, title, ISBN, book, author, title, ISBN. So when you got the data separately like this, what we can do? We can insert a record into database. We are separating the data. We know what is the title, what is the what is the author, who is the author, title, and ISBN number. What we are supposed to do? Create a custom object in the Salesforce and take this data, insert the data into object. I hope you are good with this. I hope you are good with this. Am I clear? Am I clear with this? Right. So if you want to organize still better way, now it is up to your choice how to organize it. Now let me organize in a better way still. I'll create one proper class. Now I'm giving public string author, public string. You want to create a proper class or you want to create any other format? I can also keep map of map, list of map of. Let us make it a bit complex. Right. Now what we can do? Can I create like this? Public list of map of. Okay. Now what we are doing here? Remove all this stuff. Then I'm giving then here we are giving my map dot get c dot get name c dot property value we receive. Then here once you have created the loop, here what I'm doing, my map dot c dot get name c dot get text. Then we are giving add this element to the list. What is the list name? Books map, book map dot add. Now properties of every element, properties of every element, properties of every element is available to one book details or one map. One book details or one map. List of books, list of maps. List of books, list of map. Are you getting? Now, how you organize your data is your internal purpose. Now, the web service is what? Making a request to third party. They're sending you a response. Once you receive the response, are you going to convert into a wrapper class, or are you going to convert into a map or a list, or are you going to insert into database? It is your headache. Now, what web service is? Making a request, getting a response in the form of JSON or XML, deserializing, use it. After deserializing, how we are going to use is your headache. That's what I'm saying. Right? As I told you, once you made a request, I want to insert the data into database. So what I'm doing quickly, name, title, other name, other, and ISBN number, right? Again, the point, your web service is making a request, getting the response. On the top of the response, once you receive the response, what you are going to do with the response is as per your business requirement. You are making a request to third party for the purpose of retrieving some data. Once you retrieve the data, with the data, what is the logic you are going to perform is your choice. Okay. Now let us create. This is done. Now I am taking here. Now we're going to say b dot name equal to m dot get off so what is the data response I received? Once again, let me cross check. Author name or author we have received. Now let us go to the next. What was that? Now books. What was that book? Variable does not exist. Author name. What is the bug with the book? Let me go back to the book and check it out. I made an object after creating the program. So let me copy it. Revert back. List of book, books equal to new list of book. Why book is not recognized? Variable is already defined. XML books equal to, right, how to take. Then what is the next one we had? Once you made it, come back, insert. I can also still extend a try catch, revert back, or roll back and save point. If all of them are success or failure. Now, how you make it generic is your choice. Now, making insert like this is one option. Now, I can put them in a database.save result, or I can put them in a try catch and apply. Okay, save point and roll back. Now, extension is your choice. That's what I'm saying, trying to say. Now, the insertion, it is non-atomic. I want to make it as a non-atomic, or I want to say it as a rollback. If any one of the record is failing, I want to roll back. Right? This all depends upon your requirement. Okay. Go back to this. What was the page again? Go back to the VF page. Now, go back to the object and see. That this is how the data is created in the database. Now, still extension. Whenever the data is coming from a third party, I have some specific rules to apply to decide who should be the owner. Now, there is all your business specification. Now, in terms of web service, what is our point? In terms of our web service, making a request to them, they are sending a response. From the response, taking the data, deserializing it. Once you deserialize it, what is the implementation that you are going to do? Purely depends upon your requirement. I hope you are clear, right, boss? Anyone has any query on this? People have followed the first example, right? So this is our request is only what? Till here only. This is our web service call. Rest all is your Apex code. As per your choice, you are making Apex code. Our web service call is only line number 9 to line number 17. Rest all is who asked you to put in the map? Who asked you to put in the list? Who asked you to insert the data? It's your requirement. It has nothing to do with your web service. I made a call, I received the data. I hope you are good with this. Okay. Now let us take the next example. We'll take one more example. Here, we want to take the response in the form of JSON. I want to make a request to third party. I want to receive the response in the form of JSON. Now, what is my response? Look at this. I am going to give my pin code number. When I give my pin code number, all the areas which are covered under this pin code, that should be uploaded to the record. Now, here, look at this. In the account object, insert some good data, boss. Now, let us go with the creation of one pin code. I want to give one pin code number. Based on the pin code, I want to get the corresponding data and update to Salesforce. Okay. Now come back to this. Now we are going with the next format. Now in this object, I am trying to create one record. I am going to create one field. Look at this. Or else I can give lead is coming from you from third party. In the third party, lead is going to enter the pin code. Based on the pin code, then I will find out he belongs to which zone. The lead belongs to which zone. I have to assign this lead to the particular team. Now leads are coming. It is a territory based implementation. Now leads are coming. Then I told pin code is a mandatory. Once he enter the pin code, based on the pin code, I will find out he belongs to which region, right? And I will assign this lead to the particular queue. I will assign the lead to the particular queue. This is my requirement. But how do you find out lead based on the region? So I need to go for one web service call, where I am going to create a web service call to find out data based on a pin code number. So let us see how to get the data. So I have Postal India. So are they giving any free APIs? My AP will come pin code. Okay. So open your documentation. What I given? Postal India, I guess, right? Open your in the HTTP documentation. In the HTTP documentation, open the first example. The second example, what is the URL I have given? Postal pin code. This open URL. We need to find out the open URL. Now search by location or search by pin. Search by pin. If you are giving a pin number, they are giving the response. In the response, we are getting name. Okay. Now based on the pin code, I want to get the names which are covered under this pin code. The data should be uploaded to the corresponding record. Now look at this. I am making here now text area long. I don't know how many places I'm going to get. Right. This is my request. First, let us execute the format. There are a lot of bugs in this. I'll make it a generic programming. Then we'll try to implement with the triggers and the feature method. Okay. First example. Now we had public, we had public void invoke, so let me make a general program. Then I'm giving insert account. After inserting the account, I want to make a request. Request equal to request. Then request dot set endpoint. What is the endpoint we have received here? URL plus SCC dot pin code. Then I'm giving the URL. Then what type of request is this? Data is passed in the URL only. As you're passing the data in the URL, it is a get for them. Then we are getting response, HTTP response p dot send. We are sending a request, we are getting a response. Now the response is already coming in the form of JSON. The documentation says response is coming in the form of JSON. It says response is coming in the form of JSON. Right. Okay. Now I want to get the name. So what we are supposed to do? Now I want to deserialize. I want to deserialize in the form of JSON. How do you deserialize? String JSON string equal to response dot get body. Then what we are trying to do now, system dot JSON parser JP equal to create parser JSON string, while JP dot token equal to null. Then I'm giving here then if JP dot get text equal to name capital or small, the case sensitive. So JSON will be case sensitive. They're giving capital name. Then value will be in the next position. JP dot So we got all the places. jp dot text get text equal to name, then jp dot next token, then get the place values. At the end, what we are doing, acc dot place equal to, then we want to perform update. I can make it before also, before insert also I can make it. Place, what was the field I have given? Places. Right. So what is this? Whatever the pin code number you are giving, based on the pin code number, I am making a request. I am getting the response, finding out the places covered under the pin code. That places I am going to update to the record. Now, I was supposed to create a VF page to enter the account record first. So, as I am doing from the Apex, there is no bug. If I do the same from the trigger, we are going to get 4 types of bugs. Right? Straight away I am doing from the Apex. I am not invoking from a trigger, because basically this should happen from where? Trigger. When a new record is created, trigger has to fire, get the places, update the places. But we are doing in 2 different steps in Apex. That's why we are not finding any error here. Okay. So let us complete this and see what type of errors we are going to get if I go with a trigger. I was creating here Apex, the blocks, action item. I was giving Apex input field value equal to Apex input field something like ownership. So I have created this data. So before I execute this, I was supposed to go with what? Before I execute this, I have to register. I have to register remote site. I have to register this remote site with the remote site setting. I have to register this with remote site settings. What was the bug here? Page reference. acc.id. HTTP is already used. So we got habitude of certain variable names. Right. So let us go back and register this remote site with remote site settings. Go back to the security controllers. Then we have remote site settings. Now all the examples what I made, none of them required authentication. They are open. Last example is also open URL. This is also open URL. We didn't use any authentication procedure. Anybody can make a request. Okay. Review. So what was this? Please commit or rollback before calling out. Line number 15. Your uncommitted work pending. Please commit or rollback before calling out. Expression invoke. Uncommitted changes. What are these uncommitted changes here? So go. Message. Then return. Then I'm giving. Then we had message. Just understand. Let's apex page dot message. Message equal to new apex page dot message. Let us see what is the bug here we are getting. In case of any bug, we will be getting the information here. You have uncommitted work pending. Please commit and roll back before calling out. What is that? Uncommitted changes, boss? Any back-end operations going on here? Right. So let me make it simple. Some bug we are getting. Let me put it here. Then I'm going to say instead of update, insert ACC. Your uncommitted work pending. Please commit or roll back before calling out. Fine. Let us give back. Some bug is coming here. Okay. Let me make it simple. First, let me check out if the web service is running properly or not. Is a bug from the web service or invoke fine. Let me display. Let me check whether web service is coming properly or not first. So we are getting the data. So insertion is getting failed there. Insertion was getting failed along the web service. Okay, we'll achieve it. So what was this here? So what we are doing now? What we are doing? We made a request to this URL. When we made a request to this URL, we are getting the corresponding places. We are getting the corresponding places here. Fine. Now what I want to do is, we are making a request, we are getting the corresponding places. I am doing from the VF page. Now I told, same request if I am making from a web service call, what will happen? Same request if I make from the web service call. So whatever the error I am making here now, actually I was supposed to get, I am writing a trigger. So look at the format. First of all, is this example is clear? What is our web service code? This is our web service code. Rest of the logic is your business logic. Now we made a URL method, send a request, we are getting a response. Now let us see how this can be invoked on a trigger, in a trigger. Example,
Satish, what was the issue here? I didn't get that.
Insertion. After insertion, I was supposed to make it. Before an insertion and update, both I have made it. Okay. After insertion, if I make it, probably the error might be lost. I will show it here now. Let us see. The DML of insert, and I'm making a DML of update. So what is happening? I wrote an insert as well as I wrote an update here. I wrote insert as well as update. So after insert, web service is called. After inserting the record, web service is made, and whatever the data we are getting, still that is not committed. It is only saved. The transaction is completed, then it will be committed. Before the data is committed only, I am trying to make update one more time with the web service call, which it is throwing an error message. So I avoided those things. Uncommitted changes on the data, then you are making. Without committing the data, you are again trying to make a changes using the web service call. So when you are making a web service call, let the data be committed, then we can go for it. Before you make second operation. Now let us see this. Let us see this. I am making before insert. Right. Now I was supposed to make after insert. Whenever you are trying to make a web service calls, try to make it as a after, in case if you are not checking any duplicates. The reason is, if you are taking a before, if the web service call is taking 2 minutes or 3, okay, it's taking 1 minute, the record will not be inserted. It has to wait for 1 minute to save the record. Unless the before trigger is completed, record will not be saved. Unless the record is saved, the rest of the operation will not happen. So if the web service call is made to third party, if the third party is taking 1 minute time to give a response, then obviously what happened? Delayed in the operation. Okay. So what I'm doing, okay, for your sake, I'm giving before insert. What is the code I wrote? Go to this trigger. In the URL I was supposed to give. What is the URL we have taken? So here I am making a web service call. Take for account A. Right. Now I'm making a request here. So in the request, what we are getting here, boss? Any variables missing here? URL, string URL. Okay. Fine. What is the next one? String URL plus what is that? ACC. It should be A dot input. Now, what was the next? It should be also A dot places. Now let me run the trigger. When this trigger will fire, when you are trying to insert a record, trigger will fire. No, it throws an error message. Let me save it. Right. The error. What is the error here? What is the error? Web services are not supported in the trigger straight away. Synchronous web services, not the web services. So in the trigger, synchronous web services are not supported. Triggers will not be supporting synchronous web services. So when you are trying to make a web service call from a trigger will not be supporting a synchronous web service calls. If it is not supporting a synchronous web service call, I have to call like asynchronous. So how do you call a asynchronous web service call from a trigger? How do you call a asynchronous web service from a trigger? Now I have to use a feature method. If I have to use a feature method, again we have a drawback. What is that? Future method will not take subject as a parameter. Future method will not take subject as a parameter. If I pass the records, then only they can make a web service. If you pass a record, then only they can take a web service. If you want to pass a record as a parameter, future method will not take subject as a parameter. Then what is the solution we have? Either serialize the data in the form of JSON, string, pass a string value, so that JSON will mute your mic. People have some common sense, disturbing the class. Right. Now, future method when you're taking a future method will not support S object. Future method will not support S object. As a future method doesn't support S object, what are the two solutions we have? Either serialize the data in the form of a string and pass it, or pass only ID of a record. If you want to pass the ID of the record, when do you get ID of the record? Only if it is after. In the after insert trigger, if you want to call, a future method, I can pass the ID of the record. If it is not an after insert, then ID will not be there. Then I have to go for what? Serialize the data as a string and pass it as a parameter. In the future method, they will deserialize and use it. Okay. Now here, what I am doing, I will take like a after. Then map of ID comma trigger dot. Then I was supposed to define future method. So let us create. How you define a feature call? We have public, static, void. Then I am passing list of you're passing account IDs. When you pass an account ID, I am writing a query to fetch all those accounts again. From account where ID in. Then whatever the code I wrote in the trigger, now write this code in the same. Then I'm going to give so what I'm doing here, future method is called. When you call a future method, now I'm get me all the account records whose IDs are in ACC IDs. Then I took one by one record. For every record, make a web service call, get the corresponding places and update the data. Now in the future method, what I'm doing, I'm making a web service call. Now there's a bug here. If you want to make any web service call from a future method, I would give at the rate of future call out equal to right. Now invoke this future method here. Invoke ACC map dot. Pass a set of keys. What is a set of keys? Set of keys are nothing but IDs. Now, why are you invoking a future method? Triggers are not going to support synchronous web service. Why they are not going to support synchronous web service? Because if the operation is delayed, entire trigger has to be delayed. If the operation is taking 1 minute to get the response, remaining records also should wait, because unless the trigger is completed, remaining procedure will not complete. So if any one record is delayed, entire operation should be delayed. That is the reason, boss, you cannot run the triggers with the web service synchronously. If you want to call a web service, run them independently from the trigger. The web service call should run independently from the trigger, so that if there is any delay in the web service also, rest of the operation will be completed. Are you getting my point? That is the reason the triggers are invoked. Triggers are calling the web service from the future method. Are you getting my point? When you call the triggers with a web service, it has to be defined in the future method or a batch effects or a schedule effects. Straight away you cannot call it. So that record will be inserted successfully. Web service will go. Whenever the web service is completed, it will come back. Whenever the web service is completed, it will come back. Are you getting my point? So let us go back and see. Save record. Now I have created this. Look at this. Did you get any places? Places are not there. But trigger is completed. Trigger is completed. That means web service is running separately. Trigger is completed. Now it is not throwing error or success. So trigger is completed successfully. Now it went to the third party. Let the third party take its own time and send the response. Now go back. Now what did I create just now? Go to the setup, jobs, then Apex jobs. Then now future is completed. Then go back. Right. So what happened? Record is successfully inserted. Then it went to the web service. Now it take its own time. Now record is saved. Whenever the web service is completed, the data is getting updated. Now they are running asynchronously. Now you have seen when I inserted the record, without places the record is inserted. Now we are getting along with the places. Why? Because the web service is running asynchronously. Whenever the operation is completed, it is updating the data to the record. That's how triggers are invoking a web service. Triggers are invoking a web service with the help of asynchronous operation. Straight away you cannot call web services from the trigger. If you want to call a web service from a trigger, it has to be asynchronous call. How do you make a asynchronous call? Batch effects, schedule effects, queuable, future. Batch effects, schedule effects, queuable, future. Out of these four, which is the easiest way of defining? Future method. That is the reason I have taken a future. That is the reason I have taken a future. It is not only future, any asynchronous call I can make it. But easy way of defining is future method. That is the reason I have taken. But what is the drawback of using a future method? Future method will not support S objects. Future method will not support S object. As it is not supporting S object, then what should I do? Serialize the data and send it, or pass the ID. If I want to pass the ID, then it has to be after trigger only. Otherwise, in the before trigger will not have ID, sir. So I cannot pass the ID. If it is a before trigger, serialize the data in the form of string, pass as a parameter. Then future method, what it does? It will deserialize the data and use the data and process the request. How do you make a web service call from future? At the rate of future, call out equal to. At the rate of future, call out equal to 2. I hope you are good with this. Am I clear? Am I clear with this? So, all the examples I made right now is without authentication. Tomorrow class we are going to see with authentication. Right. Now, anyone has any query on